I never expected my 68th birthday to unfold under the harsh, flickering lights of an ambulance. Clutching an ice pack to my split lip while my shoulder pulsed with a deep, bruising ache. It was December 15th, 2025, a cold Calgary night where the snow fell softly outside, blanketing the city in white. The paramedics were kind, their voices calm as they monitored my vitals, but my mind was a whirlwind of shock and sorrow. With fingers still trembling from the adrenaline, I texted my lawyer 3 simple words. They finally did it. As the vehicle sped toward Foothills Medical Center, I stared at the ceiling, replaying the events that had led to this moment. How had family love turned into this calculated betrayal? Let me take you back, step by step, to the beginning. My name is William Morrisonville to most everyone who's known me over the years. Born in 1957 in a small town outside Edmonton, I moved to Calgary in the late 1970s for university, chasing a degree in civil engineering. Those were the boom years for Alberta, with oil money flowing like the Bow River in spring thaw. I graduated in 1981 and landed a job with the city of Calgary, where I spent the next 34 years designing bridges and overpasses that crisscrossed the growing metropolis. It was gratifying work turning sketches on paper into structures that supported thousands of lives daily. I remember the pride I felt when the Peace Bridge opened in 2012. Its red helix spanning the bow, a project I'd consulted on in its early stages. Engineering taught me patience, precision, and the importance of strong foundations lessons that would prove vital in the twilight of my career. My wife, Margaret, was the true architect of my happiness. We met in 1979 at a university mixer. She was studying nursing with a smile that could melt the harshest prairie winter. Margaret was practical, kind, and fiercely independent, qualities that made our marriage a partnership of equals. We wed in 1982, a simple ceremony in a Calgary church, followed by a honeymoon in Banff where we hiked the Rockies and dreamed of the family we'd build. By 1988, with our first child on the way, we bought our craftsman bungalow in Mount Royal for $180,000, a stretch on my city salary and her nursing wages, but a sound investment. The neighborhood was quiet then, full of families like ours. With tree-lined streets and parks where kids played hockey in winter, Mount Royal has changed dramatically since. By 2025, as per recent real estate reports from sources like RIA, Max and Zillow, properties like ours were fetching an average of $2.5 million to $3 million, driven by an influx of young tech professionals and executives. The streets now buzz with electric vehicles, hot yoga studios, and app-based grocery deliveries. Our bungalow, with its original hardwood floors, cozy fireplace, and Margaret's beloved garden out back, stood as a relic amid the modern renovations. Margaret passed 3 years ago in 2022 from a stroke. It was sudden one morning. She was in the kitchen, brewing coffee and planning our next trip to the Rockies. By afternoon, she was gone. The loss hollowed me out. We had 2 children, Karen, now 38, a marketing executive for a renewable energy firm. Oil and gas had pivoted to green tech by 2025. Married to Derek, a commercial real estate broker always chasing the next big listing. They lived in a sprawling house in Aspen Woods, complete with a 3-car garage and a home theater they barely used. Their kids, Sophie, 10, and James, 7, were my joy. Sophie with her soccer dreams, James with his endless questions about dinosaurs. Then there's Michael, 35, single, a software developer in Toronto. He's the quiet one, calling once a month to check in, sharing updates on his latest coding project or the Leaf season. Michael's not part of this story. He's the steady son who never asked for more than a conversation. This tale centers on Karen and Derek and the web of deceit they wove starting 4 months before that fateful Thanksgiving in October 2025. It began over coffee with my neighbor, Arthur Fenton. Arthur, 73 and a retired provincial court judge, was as sharp as a his mind honed from decades on the bench, presiding over everything from petty theft to family disputes. We met every Tuesday morning at the Starbucks on 17th Avenue, sipping lattes and debating the news, the Flames' playoff slump, federal politics under the latest prime minister, or the rising cost of living in Calgary, that particular Tuesday in June 2025. Arthur looked troubled, stirring his coffee with unusual deliberation. "Bill," he said, his voice low and serious, "I need to ask you something personal. Has Karen been talking to you about your finances lately?" I paused, my cup halfway to my lips. She had, starting about 2 months prior. Casual questions at first. "How are your investments doing with the market fluctuations, Dad?" The TSX had been volatile that spring. As per Bloomberg reports, then more pointed, "Have you thought about what happens if you get sick? Do you have all your paperwork in order?" I told Arthur about the conversations. He nodded slowly, his judge's eyes piercing and perceptive locking onto mine. "And has she mentioned power of attorney?" "She brought it up last week. Said it would be easier for everyone if she had legal authority to help manage things, just in case." Arthur set down his coffee. "Bill, I spend 22 years on the bench. I've seen hundreds of cases involving elderly parents and adult children. What you're describing is a pattern, a very specific pattern." "What kind of pattern?" "Financial exploitation. It starts with concern, questions about your affairs, then suggestions about legal documents, power of attorney, joint accounts, adding their name to your property title. They frame it as protection, but the goal is control." I felt a chill despite the warm coffee in my hands. Karen wouldn't do that. She's my daughter. Arthur leaned forward, his expression compassionate but firm. "I'm not saying she would. I'm saying be careful. Get a cognitive assessment done. Update your will with an independent lawyer. Document everything. If I'm wrong, you've lost nothing. If I'm right, you'll be protected." I didn't want to believe him. Karen had always been ambitious top of her class at the University of Calgary, landing her marketing job straight out of school. But Arthur had no reason to lie, and those questions had been getting more frequent, more insistent. As we parted that day, his words echoed in my mind. So I made some calls. First, I booked an appointment with a geriatric specialist at Foothills Medical Center. The assessment was thorough, memory tests, recalling lists of words, drawing clocks, reasoning exercises, solving puzzles, interpreting proverbs, the whole battery. I passed with flying colors. "Mr. Morrison," the doctor said, a middle-aged woman with a reassuring smile, "you're sharper than most 50-year-olds. No signs of cognitive decline whatsoever." She handed me a detailed report. Signed and stamped documented proof that I was mentally competent, *2. I called Douglas Chun, an estate lawyer downtown, from a firm unrelated to the one Karen and Derek used. I met him in his sleek office overlooking the Bow River and laid out Arthur's concerns. Douglas, 54 and always in perfectly tailored suits, nodded without surprise. "Mr. Morrison, I handle 3 or 4 cases like this every month. Adult children trying to gain control of their parents' assets. Sometimes it's pure greed. Sometimes it's financial desperation disguised as concern. Either way, we need to protect you." Over the next 2 weeks, Douglas helped me restructure everything. We drafted a new will with specific language preventing any challenges based on claims of mental incapacity, a clause referencing my recent cognitive assessment. I set up a living trust for Sophie and James, managed by an independent trustee from a reputable bank. The money for their education funds I'd saved over decades would be accessible when they turned 25, separate from anything Karen could touch. We also reviewed my pension, a solid $5,500 monthly from the city, and investments, around $1.2 million in a diversified portfolio. As per 2025 market values from TD Wealth reports, third, on Arthur's suggestion, I installed security cameras. 4 of them, 1 in the living room, 1 in the dining room, 1 in the kitchen, and 1 in the front hallway. High definition with excellent audio, the system saved everything to a cloud server that Karen didn't know existed. I tested it a few times, watching playback on my phone clear as day. I hoped I'd never need any of it. I was wrong. Chapter 2. The Thanksgiving fell on the 2nd. Monday in October 2025, October 13. Karen called the week before to confirm she was hosting dinner at her place in Aspen Woods. Fine with me less cooking. Less cleanup. But then she called again on Friday, her voice too bright, too cheerful. "Actually, Dad," she said, "Derek and I were thinking, why don't we do Thanksgiving at your place this year? The kids love your house, and it would be nice to have everyone together where Mom used to cook," playing the Margaret card. Clever. It tugged at my heartstrings. Margaret's Thanksgivings were legendary, with her secret stuffing recipe and laughter filling the house. But Arthur's warnings flashed in my mind. Saying no would raise suspicions, so I agreed. "Sure, sweetheart. I'll handle the turkey." I spent Saturday and Sunday preparing. I brined the turkey overnight, made Margaret's cranberry sauce from scratch, fresh berries, orange zest, a dash of cinnamon, roasted vegetables with garlic and herbs, and picked up a pumpkin pie from the Italian bakery she loved on 17th Avenue. I set the dining room table with our wedding china delicate patterns we'd received as gifts 43 years ago. The house smelled like sage and butter, a comforting aroma that masked the unease gnawing at me. They arrived at 4 o'clock on Monday. Derek's black BMW pulled into my driveway, a 2024 model. Sleek and expensive, probably leased on credit as the real estate market softened that year. I watched from the kitchen window as they unloaded the kids. Karen was carrying a bottle of wine, an expensive Cabernet from a Napa Valley vineyard. She only brought the good stuff when she wanted something. Sophie ran up the front steps and hugged me tightly. "Happy Thanksgiving, Grandpa." "I made you a card." James followed, more reserved but still sweet, clutching a dinosaur toy. "Happy Thanksgiving, kids. Go wash your hands. The turkey's almost ready." Karen kissed my cheek. "You look good, Dad. The house looks great." "Thanks, sweetheart." Derek shook my hand with his firm grip, direct eye contact, the classic salesman handshake. "Bill, good to see you." "Thanks for having us." "Of course." Come in, come in." We settled in the living room while the turkey finished resting. The kids sprawled on the floor, playing games on their tablets, Sophie on a soccer simulator, James building virtual dinosaurs. Derek poured himself a generous glass of the wine they'd brought. He didn't offer me any, which struck me as odd, but I let it slide. Karen sat on the edge of the armchair, that posture I'd learned to recognize, leaning forward, eager, ready to pitch. "So, Dad," Karen started, her tone casual but calculated, "Derek and I have been doing a lot of thinking. Here we go." "About what, honey?" "About you. Your situation. Living alone in this big house." I managed just fine, the same answer I always gave. "I'm okay, Karen. The place isn't that big." Derek jumped in. "Bill, with all due respect, you're almost 70. This house is what, 3,000 square feet? 4 bedrooms? That's a lot for one person to maintain. I've been maintaining it for 37 years now." "That's exactly the point," Karen said, her voice gentle, concerned. "You've been doing everything yourself for so long. The yard work, the snow removal, the repairs. It's too much, Dad. I hire a kid to do the yard and snow have for years." Derek waved his hand dismissively. "That's not sustainable. What happens when you have a fall? A medical emergency? What if you have a stroke like Mom did and no one's there? Then I'll deal with it when it happens." Karen exchanged a look with Derek, the kind of look that said, "We rehearsed this. Follow my lead." "Dad, we've been talking to some people, professionals, about options." "What kind of options?" Derek leaned forward. "There's a very nice assisted living community in Canmore. Beautiful facility, mountain views, full medical staff on site, activities, social events. You wouldn't be alone anymore." "I don't want to live in Canmore. I've lived in Calgary my entire adult life. According to 2025 reports from A Place for Mom, assisted living there averaged $4,063 per month, affordable on my pension, but not the point. I appreciate the thought, but I'm happy where I am." The timer went off in the kitchen, saved by the bell. "Let me get the turkey," I said, rising slowly to carve the bird at the counter, taking slow breaths to stay calm. "This is what Arthur predicted. This is what you prepared for." Dinner started pleasant enough. Sophie talked about her soccer team scoring a goal in her last game. James showed me a video on his tablet about dinosaurs, his eyes lighting up as he explained the T-Rex's bite force. Karen complimented the stuffing, just like Mom's. Derek had 3 glasses of wine in quick succession, his cheeks flushing, then over pumpkin pie. Karen brought up the paperwork. "Dad," she said, pulling a manila folder from her purse, "I had our lawyer draw up some documents just to make things easier." "What kind of documents?" "Power of attorney." "Medical and financial?" Derek said it casually, like discussing the weather. "Standard stuff. Every family should have it in place." I looked at the folder, but didn't touch it. I already have power of attorney documents. Set them up years ago with my own lawyer. Karen's smile flickered. "Those are outdated, Dad. We should update them." "Make sure everything's current?" "They're current. I reviewed them last month." Silence hung heavy. Derek tried again. "Bill, the thing is, these documents, they give her the authority to help manage your finances if something happens. Pay your bills, deal with the bank, handle investments. It would take a lot of pressure off you." "I don't feel any pressure." Karen's voice went up an octave. "Dad, please just sign them." "It's for your own protection." I pushed the folder back toward her. "No," Derek's face darkened. He'd finished most of the wine by himself. "Bill," he said, his voice harder now, "let's be honest here. You're 68 years old. You're living alone in a house worth almost $3 million, based on current market trends from Remax reports. You've got investments, pension, savings. That's a lot of assets for someone in your situation." "My situation?" "You're vulnerable," Karen added quickly. "Not mentally, we're not saying that, but physically, logistically. What if someone takes advantage of you? What if you make bad decisions?" "I've made fine decisions my whole life." Derek stood up. He was a big man, 6'2", played hockey in university, still had the build. "This is ridiculous," he said. "We're trying to help you, old man, and you're sitting here acting like we're the enemy." I stayed seated, kept my voice calm. I said, "No, Derek, that's my answer. No isn't good enough." The kids looked up from their tablets, scared. Karen jumped in. "Derek, calm down. Don't tell me to calm down." He jabbed a finger at me. "We've been planning this for months. The facility in Canmore has a spot opening up in January. Non-refundable deposit, we already paid it. $50,000 as per standard fees for such places." There it was. The truth. "You paid a deposit on an assisted living facility without asking me?" Karen's face went pale. "Dad, we were going to talk to you about it properly, but you were going to put me in a home and sell my house." "It's not like that." Derek stepped closer. "Actually, Bill, it's exactly like that. This house is too much for you. You need to be somewhere safe, somewhere people can monitor you. And frankly, the equity in this property would be much better used helping your family than sitting here empty. Helping your family, not helping me, helping them." I stood up slowly. "I think you should leave." Derek laughed. It wasn't a nice laugh. "Leave?" "We're not leaving until you sign those papers." "I'm not signing anything." He grabbed my arm hard, fingers digging into my bicep. "Listen here, you stubborn old fool. You're going to cooperate or—" I pulled away. His grip tightened. I heard Karen yelling at him to stop. The kids were crying. Then Derek shoved me. I'm 68 years old. He's 42 and 220 pounds. I went down hard, hitting the edge of the dining room chair on the way. Felt something crack against my shoulder. My lips split on the hardwood floor. For a moment, everyone froze. Karen screamed, "Derek, what did you do?" Derek was breathing hard. He looked at his hands like he couldn't believe what had just happened. I got up slowly. Blood dripped from my lip onto Margaret's good tablecloth. "Kids," I said quietly, "go to the living room now." They ran. I walked to the front closet, got my coat. "Where are you going?" Karen was crying now, hospital. "Dad, let me drive you." "No, you're going to take your children and your husband and leave my house." "Right now." Derek stepped forward. "Bill, look. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." I opened the front door. "Get out." They left. I watched Derek's BMW back out of the driveway, saw Karen's face in the passenger window, tears streaking her cheeks. Then I called 911. The ambulance came quickly. Paramedics checked my shoulder. It wasn't dislocated, but badly bruised, likely a contusion that would require x-rays. My lip needed 3 stitches. They wanted to take me to Foothills for observation, given my age and the nature of the injury. I agreed. In the ambulance, as they applied the ice pack, I texted Douglas Chun. They finally did it. He responded in 30 seconds, coming to Foothills now. Don't talk to anyone until I get there. Douglas arrived before the doctor finished with my stitches. 54 years old, he always wore perfectly tailored suits, even on holidays. He looked at my face and shook his head. Tell me everything. I did, every word I could remember. Douglas recorded it on his phone. The cameras? He asked. Everything's on the cloud. All 4 angles. Good, this is assault causing bodily harm. Given your age and the family relationship, there are elder abuse considerations under Alberta law. The Protection for Persons in Care Act, PPCA, promotes prevention and reporting of abuse for adults in care, but it extends to patterns of coercion and exploitation in family settings. As per Alberta Health Services guidelines, we need to involve the police. I know. Are you sure, Mr. Morrison? Once we start this, there's no going back. Your relationship with Karen is already over. She brought her husband into my home to intimidate me into signing over my financial life. She paid a deposit to put me in a home without my consent. She's been planning to take my house and my money for months. Douglas nodded slowly. I'll call the Calgary Police Service. 2 officers arrived within the hour, a constable named Patterson and a sergeant named Blackwood. Professional, thorough. They took my statement, photographed my injuries, collected my torn shirt as evidence. Did you feel your life was in danger? Sergeant Blackwood asked. I felt my autonomy was in danger, my right to make my own decisions, to live my own life. She nodded. Mr. Morrison, under Alberta's PPCA and our elder abuse statutes, what you're describing is very serious. The physical assault is one element, but the coercion, the financial pressure, the attempt to remove you from your home against your will, these are patterns we take extremely seriously. The Act requires reporting and investigation for any suspected abuse in care or support contexts, and family exploitation falls under that umbrella. I wanted to press charges against my son-in-law, against both of them. Douglas showed them the video footage on his tablet, 4 angles. Crystal clear, Derek grabbing my arm, shoving me. Karen standing there, not stopping him. The folder of power of attorney documents clearly visible on the table. Sergeant Blackwood watched it twice. This is compelling evidence, she said. We'll be making arrests tonight. They did. Derek was charged with assault causing bodily harm. Karen was charged as an accessory. Both were released on conditions: no contact with me, surrender of passports, mandatory court appearance. The next 3 months were a hurricane of legal proceedings. Derek's lawyer tried to negotiate a plea deal. My lawyer refused anything less than a conviction. The video evidence was damning. No jury in Alberta would side with a man who shoved his 68-year-old father-in-law to the ground over financial documents. Derek pleaded guilty, got 18 months probation, mandatory anger management, 200 hours of community service, and a restraining order requiring him to stay at least 100 meters from me and my property. Karen's case was more complicated. She hadn't physically touched me, but the prosecution argued she had orchestrated the confrontation, knew about Derek's intentions, and failed to intervene. After 3 hearings, she accepted a conditional discharge with 12 months probation. No criminal record if she stayed clean. The elder abuse angle made local news. The Calgary Herald ran a story about seniors being pressured by family members into signing over assets, citing cases like mine anonymously. Douglas told me the police department used my case in a training seminar on recognizing financial exploitation, drawing from reports like those in the Herald from 2015-2025, highlighting how financial abuse often accompanies verbal or physical elements, The financial investigation took longer. When detectives started digging, they found Karen had been accessing my banking information for over a year. She'd gotten my login credentials somehow, probably from an old email, and had been monitoring my accounts, tracking deposits, withdrawals, investment balances, building a picture of exactly what I was worth. They also found that the deposit on the Canmore facility was $65,000. Non-refundable money Karen and Derek definitely didn't have. As assisted living costs there averaged $4,063 monthly in 2025, with deposits often in that range for premium spots. Turns out Derek's real estate business was in trouble. The commercial market had tanked with economic shifts. High interest rates from the Bank of Canada at 3.75% in late 2025 suppressing deals. He hadn't closed a sale in 8 months. They were 3 months behind on their mortgage, credit cards maxed out. My house, my pension, my investments, that was their bailout plan. I updated my will the week after the assault. Karen was removed entirely, no inheritance, no property, nothing. The grandchildren's trust remained intact. Sophie and James would receive their education funds at 25. Managed by an independent trustee with no connection to Karen or Derek, Michael remained in the will. He called me after hearing about everything, quiet, measured, shocked. "Dad, I had no idea." "I know, son. Karen kept it from everyone. Do you need me to come out there?" "No, I'm okay. I have good people around me. I love you, Dad." "I love you too, Michael." That meant more than I could say. Christmas 2025 came and went, the first completely alone since Margaret died. The restraining order meant no family gatherings. No seeing Sophie and James. I volunteered at the Mustard Seed, serving meals to the homeless in downtown Calgary. The center was bustling, with volunteers dishing out turkey and gravy to those in need. It kept me busy, kept me useful, but the evenings were long. The house still mine, then echoing with silence. January, February, March. The restraining order meant I couldn't see Sophie and James. That was the hardest part. They were innocent. They didn't understand why Grandpa suddenly wasn't at Sunday dinners anymore. Karen told them I was psych-a-lie, one of many, I'm sure. In April, Sophie sent me a letter. God knows how she got my address without Karen knowing. Maybe a school project about family. Maybe she just remembered from visits. "Dear Grandpa, I miss you. James misses you too. Mom says you're not feeling well, but I hope you get better soon. I drew you a picture of the mountains because you always said you liked looking at them from your kitchen window. I love you, Sophie." The picture was beautiful crayons on construction paper. Purple mountains, blue sky, a little house with smoke coming from the chimney. I cried for the first time since Margaret's funeral. But I didn't call Karen. I didn't break the restraining order. I didn't give her a way back in because that's what she wanted. The grandchildren were supposed to be the wedge, the emotional leverage, the soft spot she could exploit. Douglas told me that when Sophie turns 18, she can contact me herself, no restrictions. We can have a relationship on our own terms. I can explain everything, show her the videos if necessary, let her make her own judgment. That's 8 years away. I might not be here in 8 years. I'm 68. My father died at 72, my mother at 75. But I might be. I might have 20 more years, 30. And however many years I have left, I'm going to live them on my terms. I sold the house in Mount Royal in May 2026. Got $3.2 million for it. Above the 2025 average of $2.5 million due to a hot spring market. Moved into a condo downtown, 16th floor, with a stunning view of the Bow River and the Rocky Mountains in the distance. Half the space, none of the maintenance. I hired a property manager for the condo, a financial advisor I trust to handle investments, and set up automatic bill payments for everything. Arthur Fenton and I still meet for coffee every Tuesday. He's my closest friend now. He introduced me to his wife's book, Club 11 Retirees Who Meet Twice a Month to Argue About Novels and Drink Too Much Wine. I've read more books in the last year than in the previous decade. Classics like To Kill a Mockingbird, modern thrillers by John Grisham, even some romance novels that make me think of Margaret. *, I took up fly fishing finally. Margaret always wanted me to try it, said it would be good for my soul. She was right. There's something about standing in a cold Alberta river, like the bow or elbow, waiting for a trout to bite that clears the mind completely. The rush of water, the cast of the line, it's meditative, a way to process the betrayal without letting it consume me. In June 2026, I met a woman named Helen at the book club. She's 65, a retired school principal, lost her husband to cancer 4 years ago. We started with dinners after meetings, Italian at the same bakery where I got the pumpkin pie. Then dinners without meetings, walks along the river pathway. Then weekend trips to Banff, ironically, hiking the trails and sharing stories of our lost spouses. I don't know what it is, maybe something, maybe nothing, but it feels good. It feels like possibility. My children were supposed to be my legacy, my connection to the future after I'm gone. Karen broke that. But Sophie and James are still out there, growing up, becoming people. And someday, when they're old enough to understand, I'll tell them the truth, not to turn them against their mother, just so they know. Grandpa didn't abandon you. Grandpa protected himself. Because sometimes the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally are the ones who hurt you the most. Last month, I got a letter from Karen, her handwriting on the envelope. I almost threw it away unopened, but I didn't. Dad, I know you probably hate me. I understand why. What Derek did was unforgivable. What I did letting it happen, planning it, I have no excuse. I was desperate and scared, and I made terrible choices. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for money or the house or any of that. I just want you to know that I'm sorry. Truly sorry. And I hope someday, somehow, we can have some kind of relationship again. I miss you, Dad. The kids miss you. Whatever happens, please know that I love you. Karen, I read it 3 times. Then I put it in a drawer with Sophie's picture. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know if I'll ever respond. The wound is still too fresh. The betrayal too deep. But I didn't throw it away. Maybe that means something. Maybe it doesn't. What I know for certain is this: I'm 68 years old, 69 now, as of December 2025. I am mentally competent, financially secure, and physically healthy. I have friends, hobbies, interests, and maybe even something like romance on the horizon. I make my own decisions. I live my own life. And nobody, not my daughter, not her husband, not anyone gets to take that away from me. Arthur told me something a few weeks ago over coffee. We were talking about the whole ordeal, how it had changed me, changed everything. Bill, he said, you know what the difference is between you and most of the people I saw in my courtroom, the ones who got exploited, who lost everything to their own children. What? You listened? You prepared. You didn't let love blind you to reality. I thought about that for a long time. Love is supposed to be unconditional. That's what we tell ourselves. Family is everything. Blood is thicker than water. Parents should sacrifice for their children. But what happens when your children see you not as a person, but as a resource? When they calculate your value not in memories shared, but in assets to be liquidated? When the people you raised, fed, clothed, educated, and loved turn around and say, you've served your purpose. Now give us what's ours. That's not love. That's entitlement. And I refuse to reward it. The cameras are still running in my new condo force of habit. The will is updated, ironclad, reviewed quarterly. Douglas Chun has my complete trust. And Arthur Fenton has instructions about what to do if anything happens to me. I'm protected, fortified, ready. But more than that, I'm free. Free from the obligation to sacrifice my well-being for people who don't deserve it. Free from the guilt of saying no. Free from the manipulation, the pressure, the endless expectations. 70 is coming up in 12 months. I'm planning a trip: Scotland, Ireland, maybe Iceland. Places Margaret and I always talked about visiting but never did. I'll go alone. Or maybe I'll ask Helen if she wants to come. We'll see. The mountains are still visible from my window. The Bow River still flows past downtown. Calgary is still home. And every morning I wake up in my own bed, in my own space, living my own life. Not Karen's version, not Derek's version. Mine. If you're reading this and you recognize something. If your children are asking too many questions about your finances, if they're pushing you toward decisions that benefit them more than you, if you're feeling pressured and confused and guilty for wanting to stay independent, please listen to me. Document everything. Get a cognitive assessment. Find a lawyer you trust. Install cameras if you need to. Talk to someone objective, a friend, a professional, anyone who can see the situation clearly. And do not sign anything until you understand exactly what you're agreeing to and why your home is yours. Your money is yours. Your life is yours. You spent decades building it. You don't owe it to anyone, not even your own children. Protecting yourself is not selfish. Setting boundaries is not betrayal. Saying no is not cruelty. It's survival. And survival at any age is nothing to apologize for. Maybe especially at this one.